your will. In your precious name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Cool. Okay, next session. We are just a quick notice here. The lectures is recorded due to Canadian privacy laws. Just be advised that this lecture will be recorded for educational purposes. The recording may be used for future academic offerings, online resources, or educational materials. By participating in this lecture, you're consenting to be recorded, and the use of this recording is outlined. Quick disclaimer. We are going to be using exegesis for deep and textual analysis of employing historical contextualization for broader understanding of biblical narrative. In this session and in the session 3, we will be exploring the Book of Enoch for bridging narrative gaps. And it's an academic intent behind the use of the Book of Enoch and similar texts is to enrich the understanding throughout historical and contextual analysis, not to advocate for any changes to the religious belief or practices. Quick note to you guys have been really good at this to hold your questions to the end. So the third one, we'll have a Q&A period, which I think we're making good time. So we should have probably about an hour or so of Q&A if you want. If not, we can always end early too. So session outlines. Session 2, we are aiming to provide a detailed understanding of spiritual warfare, biblical context, biblical and contextual perceptives of demons, and the practical strategies for spiritual deliverance in your personal life and the lives of others. Give me 2 seconds here while I mess with my computer. Doesn't want to cooperate. Here we go. Come on. And session 2, demonic rebellion. In this second session, we are going to dive deeper into the rebellion that started with the fall of mankind and see how other watchers in heaven, I've moved the term from sons of God to watchers because of the use of extra biblical texts. They will be referenced as watchers. So I will be using that term from sons of God interchangeably between watchers and sons of God. So the watchers in heaven that left their home in the spiritual realm created image bearers of their own, the result of the rebellion bringing about chaos and destruction into our world today. The world was cursed, bringing forth hardships and death. In this one, we're going to be exploring the area of chaos and destruction that we can find in the world today. By the end of the session, my hope is that you'll have a better understanding of the origins of the demonic forces and the methods given to us by God to overcome these spiritual beings that influence many people today and bring about restoration and peace. For this session, we're going to do a Sons of God expansion. We're going to recap what we learned previously. We're going to talk about who the Sons of God are. The Sons of God were visiting Earth is a question. Section 2, we're going to see the second rebellion, Genesis chapter 6, 1 through 8. The first Enoch story comparison using the historical contextualization and exegesis to bridge the gap between Genesis 6, 1 through 4 by including the book of Enoch to complete the story. And then what happened to the watchers or sons of God who sinned. Then we're going to explore the demonic realm, which is who are the Nephilim, what happened to the Nephilim, the giants that were after the flood, the Rephaim. Then section 4, we're going to explore demonic activity of the demons, unclean spirits, or evil spirits. Those words are interchangeable. What are demons doing on earth? And we're going to talk a bit about possession. And then finally, we're going to be talking about reversing the rebellion, starting with the Mount Hermon and practical advice for spiritual warfare. Again, just as I mentioned in the first session, for the purpose of this lecture series, we will be primarily using the New American Standard Bible, 1995 and 2020 editions. These versions have been selected for their commitment to the literal translation from the original languages and their clarity of language, which aids in understanding and interpretation. The choice of these editions is intended to enhance our study by providing a close adherence to the original texts while ensuring their accessibility for our audience. Recap. Who are the sons of God? Real quickly, back from our first session, we learned that the sons of God are Elohim. Elohim is a term used when in singular format talks about God, and when used in its plural format intensive, it talks about little g gods. These are spiritual beings who have the capacity to, when they enter into our physical creation world, in our plane of existence, they can take on corporeal form, which means they can take on the form of light, they could take on the form of spectral items, they could take on the form of invisible things, they could take on the form of physical human, like look like a physical human, and they could do all other types of things. Additionally, the term Elyon is the Most High God, and when the terms Elohim is used, it could be used to talk about the Most High God, or it could mean the sons of God, depending on if the use of the plural intensive Ben Elohim is used, which means which means sons of God. Also, interchangeably in here as well, Ben Elohim. We can also use the term watchers, which is found in some of the biblical texts, and some extra biblical texts. They're also referred to as watchers. Yahweh, the God of Israel, is used thousands of times throughout Genesis chapter 2 to Deuteronomy 34, or sorry, Deuteronomy 4. So we're going to give an example of this. So as you can see throughout the scriptures, we see Elohim or a variation of the word used to describe spiritual beings of the heavenly domain. When you speak of members of the spiritual realm, they're defined mostly as the word Elohim. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created in the day that the Lord Jehovah, God, Elohim, made the heavens and the earth. So the members of Yahweh's council, Psalm 82, verses 1 and 6, I said that you are gods, Elohim. When you look at the Hebrew, there is a plural intensive used here. When it said God, and it didn't just you say Elohim, there is the use of plural form. You are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High, Elyon. So you are Ben Elyon, which is sons of the Most High. There are gods and goddesses of other nations. Judges 11:24, 1 Kings 11:33. Demons, or shedim, is found in Deuteronomy 32, verses 17, which is the Hebrew word for demons, which is shedim. The deceased Samuel is when we look at the story of 1 Samuel 28, verses 13, when the deceased Samuel is raised up by the witch of Endor, she sees an Elohim. She sees the deceased spirit of Samuel, the deceased Elohim of Samuel. Angels, or an angel of Yahweh, when you see an example of Genesis 35, verses 7, again, they all have their roots back into the word Elohim. So when you hear gods, goddesses of other nations, shedim, demons, or the deceased spirit of Samuel, angels, or angel of Yahweh, they're all referencing the word Elyon or Elohim. So sons of God inhabit the spiritual realm, which is the heavens, found in Genesis chapter 1, verses 1. Humans become Elohim when they die, and just as it is destined for people to die once, and after that comes the judgment, Hebrews 9, verses 27, when we physically leave our bodies, our spirit, our Elohim, our Ruach in Hebrew, it goes to the place where it was destined to be, whether we go for judgment or we go to the place where Christ is as a believer in paradise. But our Elohim resides there and our body remains until the final day. So, can the sons of God visit the physical world, and can we visit the spiritual world? Hebrews 9 is not the only location where we see when a person dies, their soul or spirit is no longer in the physical world, and can now be found in the spiritual realm, awaiting the resurrection of the dead. Paul says that we fall asleep waiting for Christ to return, and Jesus tells the thief on the cross. Oh, did we lose something? I heard something. I heard a ding.
No, we're okay.
Okay, that was weird. Oh, there we go. Someone entering the room.
Oh,
There we go. Okay, so where are we? So Jesus tells the thief on the cross that he will be with him, Jesus, in the garden the same day. Other locations teach us that humans, when they die, do not stay around as a ghost or can visit this world unless God permits it. And it is there that it is there. And okay, God permits it, and there is only one event when God permitted a human to visit Earth after death, other than Christ as an Elohim, as a spirit, and that would be Samuel. As for the sons of God, they are spiritual beings by nature and are found living in the spiritual realm. And the answer to the question is yes. They can visit the physical realm, as we see further in our study. And there have been some events when humans have visited, or at least from a report which was given by Paul, the fourth heavens. So there are visions that we can see, and we can peer into the heavenly realms from our existence. And there are two narratives that are found in the Old Testament where the physical person had walked to heaven or had been taken up by a chariot. So one of the prophets, and his name is escaping me for a moment here. I'll think of it in a second. Enoch. Enoch walked with the Lord, and then he was no more. he was so righteous, he just disappeared, and he's now in heaven. And Elijah, he was taken to heaven by one of the chariots of God. So we have two of those in the Old Testament, and then of course we have Christ who ascended upon the clouds in his physical form, not in his Elohim form. He was resurrected in his physical body, and was ascended into heaven. So we have three instances of people visiting the spiritual realm for sure, and we have many accounts of those who have been able to peer into the spiritual realm when God permits it. And yes, the spiritual realm can visit the physical realm. Okay. Around the year 2010, a few studies were done in regards to the Mesopotamian religion, looking towards Genesis 6 verses 1 through 4, the story of the sons of God. What we learned from these studies is that the early Mesopotamian religion had similar understandings of the flood story that are found in Genesis 6 and other non-biblical texts, such as the book of First Enoch. These beings were divine and had provided divine knowledge to mankind, and had their own offspring that is against what God had intended for mankind. So the Apkallu is the Sumerian Abgal, is used for the legendary creatures endowed with extraordinary wisdom. 7 in number, and they were all cultural heroes before the flood. So this was from the Mesopotamian religion. They had this Apkallu or Abgal, legendary creatures that had crazy wisdom. There were 7 of them in total, and they were on the earth before the flood story, because even Mesopotamian religion and culture, there was a flood event that took place. And before that, there was these fantastical beings. So the Apkallu, in the eyes of the biblical worldview, can be summed up as some of the sons of God, the ones who had left their domain and mated with the daughters of men. The Apkallu were divine in nature, and according to Greenfield, provide divine wisdom to mankind during the days they left their domain and came to earth. And that's the understanding from the Mesopotamian understanding. Now, I want to take a look at the word watchers, because we're going to be looking at some non-biblical texts from First Enoch throughout the series, and they will mention the term watchers. Some may think this term is non-biblical, but I want to set the stage that this term does come from the book of Daniel. Watchers isn't something that springs out of the book of Enoch, and we hear the word, if we look at current cultural understanding of angels and stuff like that, you'll have watchers, and Ancient Aliens talks about it and stuff like that. But watchers is actually a biblical term as well. So Daniel chapter 4 and verses 13, 17, and 23. So Daniel says, I was looking in the visions in my mind as I lay on my bed, and behold, an angelic watcher, a holy one, descended from heaven. So here we have an instance of one of the Ben Elohim who was in the heavens, who has a particular title of watcher. This sentence is so this is the watcher speaking. This sentence is by the decree of the angelic watchers. So there is there is a group of angelic creatures, a messenger type of creatures in the spiritual realm who are watchers. In that the king saw an angelic watcher, a holy one descending from heaven. So here we have again the term angelic watcher, angelic meaning messenger, watcher meaning the role that that this particular spiritual being has. That they're tasked to watch over creation, to write down everything that's being taken place, so that way at the end of time, when the books are opened before the courtroom of God and God judges justly, he has everything written before him of all the things that we or anyone has ever done in history. All right. Next, we're going to take a look at Genesis 18 and 19 to get a good story about the Elohim visiting Earth. Sons of God were visiting Earth? Question mark. Genesis 18. When he being Abraham lifted up his eyes, he looked, and behold, three men were standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and saying, My Lord, my Jehovah, if now I have favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree, and I will bring you a piece of bread, that ye may refresh yourselves. After that you may go on, since you visited your servant. And they said, So do as you have said. So here we got a good indication that this is we're going to learn further on in the story here, but the two of them that are with the one that's in the center is the one in the center is typically understood by a lot of scholars and a lot of Christians that this was actually God in physical form, his Elohim form on earth. So pre Jesus or pre earthly Jesus. He comes on earth, he gets his feet washed, and he eats a little bit of bread to refresh themselves, him and his angelic counterparts. So the men rose up from there and looked down towards Sodom. So again, they're physical, so they rise up. So there's action taken there. They don't just like float into the air. They actually stand up and they look towards Sodom. So again, there's indication there that they have there's physical attributes that are contributed to them, so that they're actually perceiving something, and that is towards Sodom. And then the Lord turns to his two counterparts, two angelic beings that are with him, and he says, Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? So again, we have this instance where God is talking to his council members, two of them specifically, that have come with him. And basically, tongue in cheeks, like, should I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? And then, since Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed? Question mark. For I have chosen him so that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the ways of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what he's spoken about him. Then the Lord said, The outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah has indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see if they have done entirely according to its outcry, which has come to me, and if not, I will know. Okay, so God talks to his council members. Then he talks to Abraham out loud and says, Listen, the sin that's in Sodom and Gomorrah was extremely bad. I'm going down now to see for myself, to see what the watchers have recorded as true, and if not, I will know. So we have this again. We have this really deep understanding of how the watchers work. They record everything. Nothing escapes God's sight, anyways. This is more just like hyperbolic. God sees everything, anyways. He knows what's going on, but he's just showing Abraham and his angelic beings that he's like, you know what? I'm not just a God that sits on my throne and watches everything go by. I participate with my creation, and I'm going to go down personally to see what's going on, like a good king would. I love that about God. Love you, Lord. Okay. Then the men turned away from there and went towards Sodom while Abraham was still standing before the Lord. So now, two of the men that were angels had turned away from the Lord and Abraham, and they went down towards Sodom. And the two angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting there at the gate of Sodom. So here we have the noonday, they come, they get their feet washed, they eat some bread, so they carry on their mission, so they can physically eat things. They can be physically touched, and they don't just instantaneously reappear in the town of Sodom. They physically walked on the earth from where Abraham was down into the valley of Sodom, where Lot was able to see them coming. Then he rose and he bowed with his face to the ground. And he said, "Now, behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet, and that you may rise early and go on your way." Rise early, so indicating that they sleep. They can sleep. They can be washed and refreshed. And then they said, however, no, we shall spend the night in the square. Okay, I'm going to just jump through verses chapter 19 fairly quickly. He prepared a feast for the people. They ate. They laid down, so they have the physical eating ability. They can lay down and rest. Now, here's another interesting part. When the men of the city came, all of the men, both young and old, came from every quarter of the city and told Lot that they were like, "Where are these men that came with you tonight? Bring them out so that we can have relationships with them," which means sleep with them. So they can have reproductive capabilities. And so Lot came to the doorway, and then this is, we see how terrible Lot is, but even though he's still righteous, but he's pretty terrible. He offers up his virgin daughters and says, "No, no, have my daughters instead. Don't defile these divine beings." Okay, so and then carrying on the story, they pressed hard against Lot, and they came near to break the door down to get the people. But the angels reached out their hands and they grabbed Lot by the scruff of his neck and they brought him into the house with them. And they shut the door. Then this is where it's interesting. So, like, again, here's this physical attributes that they have. They open the door, they grab Lot, they pull him in. But then here we also have this spiritual aspect of it. They have power that humans don't possess, typically unless God permits it. The angels struck the men with blindness. So at the men who were at the door, so that they couldn't find what was going on. They tired themselves out trying to find the doorway. So it's not that they were struck with blindness and they freaked out and ran away. They were still actively trying to break the door down. But the angels struck everyone with blindness, and they were like, "Okay, enough's enough." Okay, so these spiritual beings who reside in the heavenly realms can come down. They can eat. They can be interacted with. They have reproductive capabilities. They have supernatural powers beyond what the human can have. And here we have in Acts chapter 12. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but when Peter was put into prison, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in the cell, and he struck Peter's side. So if an angel showed up and didn't have the capabilities of being physical, it would be just like a hologram. You wouldn't be able to touch it. But no, the angel appeared, shone light within the cell, struck Peter by his side, woke him up, and then opened the doors, which is really cool. So, and also caused the guards to not see what's going on, which is really cool. So here we have some physical attributes about the when the sons of God visited the earth. So who are the sons of God? They are the Ben Elohim. They're spiritual beings living in the heavenly realms, which is